Hello friends and welcome to Smell of Optimism. My name is Pratik Nayak and before we start today's conversation, let me ask you a question. How can we help our human race, our human species progress? I'm not joking either. This is something which we all should be aware of because at the end of the day, human animals are social animals. We are highly tuned and highly trained social animals, and our very survival depends on our ability to form the community and to form the culture. Right? Now the question is, what is a community? What is a culture? A community is a group of people with a common set of ideas, values, and beliefs. A culture is a group of people with a common set of ideas, values, and beliefs. What is a country? It is a group of people with a common set of ideas, values, and beliefs. Then the question is, what should a company be? It should be a group of people with a common set of ideas, values, and beliefs. Right? Because when we meet with someone who believes what we believe, something remarkable happens. Trust emerges. Now make no mistake of it, trust is a feeling. It is a distinctly human experience. Just by doing something which you say you are going to do does not mean that people will trust you. It just means that you are reliable and people can rely on you. We need trust. We need trust. Right? Now, when you are surrounded by people who believe what you believe, the environment of trust is the result. And when the environment of trust is created, you are more likely to take risks. You are more likely to experiment, which requires failure, by the way. You are more likely to do something impossible because you know that if you fail, if you trip over, there are those from within your culture, from within your community, who will watch your backs, who will take care of your kids if you are gone. You have that confidence, and that is why you can take that risk of going far from what you could do. Right? Now, you say we are not good at everything. We are just not good at everything. That's the fact. Right? Just imagine if I ask you to go out there and fight with a tiger. The odds are tiger 1, you 0, right? But if we go in a group, we are pretty damn amazing, aren't we? It's because we all have certain weaknesses and we all have certain strengths. And the goal is not to identify our weaknesses, but the goal is to amplify our strengths. Right? And that happens when we meet with someone who has a strength which we lack. But bear in mind, just by surrounding yourself with people who have those which you don't, doesn't mean that you both can form a trust. It is a bit tricky, you see. It requires something else. It requires the sharing of common values and common beliefs. Right? Let me give you an example. If you are from Melbourne and if you decide to go to Sydney, right? Now, when you are in Melbourne, were you friends with everyone from Melbourne? I highly doubt. But when you go to Sydney, and when you meet with someone who is from Melbourne, and you ask him, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Melbourne. Hey, I'm from Melbourne too, and you are best friends. Now imagine, if you go to France on a holiday trip, and if you meet with someone from Brisbane, you just hear that Australian accent behind you, and you ask him, hey, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from Brisbane. And you go, I'm from Melbourne, and you're best friends. Right? Because although you do not know much about that stranger, you know something about that stranger. You share common values. because of the community that you belong, because of the likelihood of those environment which you both have lived in, right? That is what happens. And if that stranger from who just became your friend, if he tells you to go to a restaurant to have your dinner, you would just go to that restaurant to have the dinner. You would not question his judgment, because you know that he knows how you have lived and how you have been brought up, right? So you trust him. You do not do all the research, you see. We humans, we do not do all the research, because when we meet with someone who believes what we believe, when we meet with someone from within our community and within our culture, we try to rely on them. We try to rely on their judgments. Let me give you another example. If you decide to buy a television for yourself, you do all this market research, all the competitive analysis, all this website reviews, the product reviews and stuff like that, and you decide to go and buy an LG TV on Monday. You are quite convinced that you are going to buy an LG TV on Monday. Now, a day before, on Sunday, one of your best friends arrives at your place to meet you. Now, he is a kind of a gadget guy, a tech-savvy person, and you just told him about all the research which you have done, and you just told him that you are going to buy an LG tomorrow, and he just turns around and tells you, no man, go for a Samsung, it's a better TV. What would you do? You would either do all the research which you had done before with LG, but now with Samsung. You would do all those market analysis, all the competitive research, all those product review sites. You will do everything with Samsung this time. Or you would just go and buy a Samsung on Monday. In other words, you will throw all the research, all the market analysis, all the hard work which you have done after LG out of the window, just because your friend, someone who you trust and someone who trusts you, told you to go for something else. This is what happens when you trust someone, right? Now, the question is, how do you find someone who shares common values and common beliefs? Right? It's a big question. It's a big question. How do you find those people who you believe that they believe the same thing as you do? Right? If I ask you to go out in a crowd and find those people who believe what you believe, you know exactly what you need to do. You go out there and you strike up a conversation with everyone that you meet. You go out there and you start talking about your beliefs, your ideas, your values, and out of a bunch of people, you would find a few who happen to share somewhat the same values and the same ideas as you do. The problem with that is that it is not scalable, you see. It is a bit hard to interact with every individual and share your ideas and your beliefs. But if I give you a black hat, and if I ask you to go out there in the same crowd and find those who are wearing the same black hat, it is quite easy, isn't it? Here is one, here is two, that's three, that's four, and that's five. Five people. Right? Now just replace the black hat which I gave you with the symbol of your beliefs and your values. Right? The point is that when you present your symbols of your values and your ideas and your beliefs across to a large crowd, those who are carrying the same symbols, it becomes quite easy for them to look at you, and it's quite easy for you to look at them. And when you meet with them, trust starts to emerge. Right? That's what happens. So it's quite important to present your symbols that you put across. It's very, very important. Going back to my previous example, when you were in France and when you heard an Australian accent behind you, that Australian accent was a symbol which that guy had put across and which reflected his values and his beliefs. And because that symbol was familiar to you, you got drawn to that person weirdly. That's why it's very important to put across those symbols which identify who you are and what are your beliefs and values. Right. Now, one other example which kind of shakes me up every time when I think of it is this. So what is our most valuable possession on the planet? What is our most valuable asset on the planet? That's our children, isn't it? That is our kids. Now just imagine if you want to take your wife on a date one fine day and you need someone to take care of your kids while you are on your date. So you need to find a babysitter who can take care of your kids for a few hours. You have two options. Option number one, you have your neighbor. She is a 16-year-old girl who has barely, if any, babysitting experience, but you have known her for the past 7 years. You have an alternative. The alternative is to go for a 34-year-old woman who has just come to live in your neighborhood, who you do not know quite well, but one thing which you know about her is that she has got 3 years of babysitting experience. Who would you choose? You would choose that 16-year-old girl who you have known quite well to take care of your kids. In other words, you would put more importance and more priority to a person who you know pretty well over a person who has got a vast amount of experience in the field which you are looking for. Why? Because this girl is from within your community, from within your culture, from within your neighborhood, and you have managed to know her well, and you have managed to form a trust. And as a result, you are ready to give the most valuable possession of the planet of yours in the hands of someone who does not have any experience at all. That is the magic of trust. That is the magic of trust. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and you have a wonderful day.